Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 1 from this seminar in accounting management. So today we would like to summarize the article review about organization context of supplier management practices and supplier performance. A case study about a multinational company in Malaysia. My name is Madihah Binti Zulkefli. So I would like to introduce the article, the purpose of the article, introduction of the article, and so on. So the purpose of this article is to investigate the link between the supplier management practice, organizational environment, and supplier performance. Economic transaction practices and high involvement work practices are chosen as setting for the supplier management practices, while power asymmetry and competition intensity are addressed within the organization environment. So the design and methodology, global semiconductor business was the subject of the questionnaire study. The data was analyzing using the two phrases, statistical analysis. Okay, for the first phrase, the reliability and effect analysis, and the second phrase is hierarchical multiple regression analysis. The finding of this article, the researcher provide empirical data to back up conceptual and practices comment in the literature about the influence of supply management practices. Originally, the study applies organization theory and marketing theory to the supply chain. Supply management practices contain of planning, implementing, developing, and monitoring the company relationship with the current potential supplier. The way of practices may be different according to the circumstance of the company. To improve the SEM, reduce cost, and to provide better customer experience, because to rely on the supplier capability only is not enough to recognize the effect supply chain performance. Furthermore, as a result of the influence of globalization, the supply chain must be responsible in ensuring fast and dependable delivery of high quality product and services at the lowest possible cost. This is critical foundation for firms seeking to create the long-term competitive edge and remain the forefront excellent on the level playing field. This issue of the supply management practices must be addressed. Okay, so I will pass the present to the next presenter. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum Dr. Wani. My name is Safikah Binti Sulaimi. Thank you to the last presenter. I will continue with the theoretical background and conceptual framework. Firstly, planning and executing, developing and monitoring the company's connection with present and potential suppliers are all part of good supplier management practices. Their goal is to improve manufacturer access to material from cutting-edge vendor who provide excellent quality at competitive price. These procedures are representative of the social exchange perspective, which is concerned with the social environment of an organization. Factors such as company size, product kind, market saturation, degree of rivalry, tenure of the supplier-buyer partnership, and buyer or seller imbalance all play a role. The benefit of the supply management allow purchasing businesses to implement management practices that create loyal supplier. The theoretical framework stated purpose is to investigate the impact of power dynamics, the level of competition, and supplier management practices on the effectiveness of a supplier output. Strong supplier-buyer connection are a competitive advantage for the company that benefit from them. This capability, when included into supplier management practices, help improve supplier performance and overall value to the supply chain. Next, content of the organizational context. The term organization context is used to describe external or internal factors that are beyond to the control of the company. Size, product, industry, competitive level, length of the supplier-buyer relationship, supplier tier, power asymmetry are all examples of contextual variables. Power imbalance and the level of rivalry between businesses are examined as component of the organizational setting. Definition: dyadic power asymmetry is inverse function of buyer and supplier's relative dependence and the accompanying relationship management strategy. A consumer are more likely focused on exercising their power or protecting themselves from being exploited than on thinking integrative. Relationship of power between purchaser and vendor is not always conflict-free. A mediated power relationship is detrimental to the acquiring organization. Purchasing organizations that believe in the benefit of supplier management and are cognizant of the ever-changing buyer-supplier dynamic may implement supplier loyalty building management practices. Competition intensity is measured by the level of rivalry in a given market. Short product life cycle, demand on cost and quality, and frequent new launch are typical of market with high competitive intensity. Some academics consider the external environmental element of the competition intensity, including the factor of replaceability, dynamism, enormity, and munificence. Then, supplier management practices. Its primary goal is to coordinate the most cost-effective and timely delivery of high-quality raw material to manufacturers from the most promising new sources of supply, establishing a holistic process that incorporates people, offering an appropriate level of empowerment, and designing an interconnected organizational structure are all part of involved management practices. Improvement in supplier performance can be attributed in part to the use of effective supplier management practices. High involvement work practices, the ways in which a company encourages and facilitates employee participation in the integration and management of its operation. Two aspects, high involvement work practices. First, the buyer and seller relationship. Second, the buyer and seller ability to work together effectively and efficiently using the variety of tools. Supplier evaluation, feedback, and continuous performance index monitoring are the three pillars of the direct involvement framework for high involvement work practice. Economical transactional practices. According to the transaction cost theory, the goal of any method for transferring money between buyer and seller should be minimize the opportunity cost of transaction. In order to keep a good relationship with influential partner, economic dependence on the side of the supplier remain a vital aspect in this practice. Supplier performance. Supplier performance is defined by the objective of the purchasing organization. Others prefer to use an assortment of integrated measurements such as delivery, reliability, responsiveness, flexibility, cost, asset management efficiency, customer service, productivity, and quality.
Hypothesis development. First, we will look into supplier management practices and supplier performance. So companies prefer high involvement work practices in competitive environments, improving supplier performance. So purchasing organization influences supplier management. So in the late 1990s, developed nations focused on improving supplier practices. So HIWP and transactional economics enhance supplier performance. So next we will look at the relationship between the organizational context and vendor efficiency. So first one is power asymmetry and supplier performance. Equitable power dynamics prioritize long-term ties with supplier. Buying firm has low dependence, transaction efficiency suffers, and leading to poorer supplier performance. So next will be competition intensity, supplier management practices, and supplier performance. So equitable power dynamics value long-term supplier ties, and low buyer dependence leads to inefficient bargaining and poorer supplier performance. Increased involvement in economic transactional practices indicates significant power asymmetry. So next one, we will look into what we call this competition intensity and power asymmetry. So the market is very uncertain or level of competition is high. It is advantageous to create a learning environment that facilitates development of multiple competencies. So greater competition intensities necessitates differentiation or the construction of an entry barrier. So when competition intensity was high, the adaptation of high power asymmetry tactics decreased total power between dyads, thereby diminishing the exchange benefits between supplier and the consumer. Next is mediating effect. So organizations that downplay power asymmetry are more likely to experience superior supplier performance. Greater competition intensity prompted suppliers to provide superior goods and services to customers. The effect of these two contextual factors is likely to be influenced by purchasing organizational supplier management practices. So supplier management practices are variables and that can be controlled by acquiring firms. So this explains why suppliers perform differently in similar contexts. Okay, the next one would be control variables. So control variables, organization context characteristics that have the largest impact on the buyer-supplier interactions are power imbalance and the level of competition present in the market. So the methods by which purchasers should handle their vendor relationship change as the level of competition which rises. So some businesses are better than others at managing their suppliers, even if they all operate in comparable environments. So organizational setting and other context dimensions such as size, products, relationships are examined in terms of power imbalance and competitive intensity.
Selamat sejahtera, Dr. Nur Shazwani. I'm Jeevitha here. Today I'm present about methodology for the article review. In summary, the modification of the questionnaire were done in stages. Initially, the questionnaire was reviewed by academic with relevant expertise to ensure its comprehensive clarity, validity and reliability. Based on their feedback, a modified version was developed and tested by 20 senior purchasing managers. Further minor changes were made in response to their feedback. The question comprised 72 items divided into 6 sections: respondents' profile, background of supplier, performance of supplier, supplier development practice, competition incentive faced by supplier, and power relationship between buyer and supplier. Additionally, 8 questions based on interval scale were asked to measure supplier performance, focusing on quality, cost, delivery, and involvement in product development. 6 questions related to economy transaction practice and 10 items related to the market situation were also included. The study focused on a US-based semiconductor manufacturer of telecommunication equipment with multiple facilities worldwide, especially in China, Malaysia, and Singapore. To ensure uniformity in supplier management practice, the study eliminated the differential effect by selecting only this particular company. The population of the study was defined as the total purchased product or services globally by the company. By narrowing down the sample, contact variables such as industry type, position in the supply chain, and buyer capability were controlled. Key informant referred to as buyers were selected as proxies for the number of products sampled. The resulting questionnaire was distributed to all the buyers with the goal of collecting at least 80 responses, following the guideline of 50 to 20 samples per independent variable. Thank you.
I will continue to present for the result of the article. Hi, my name is Haslinda. From the article, we can see that the result finds that the mean score for all dimensions in this organization supplier management program were above average. Result is collected from the supplier, where the suppliers selected for this survey perform better in terms of delivery than in terms of quality and flexibility. Okay, supplier performance is influenced by high involvement work performance, which is HIWP, and transactional economics practices. HIWP negatively impacts supplier quality and adaptability. The result also find that power inequality was not linked to supplier management practices, suggesting that if an organization favor mediated authority, economic transactions should be practiced. The study found that increased competition intensity lead to increased adaptability from supplier. The result demonstrated that when competition intensity was high, both HIWP and economic transactional practices were necessary to ensure the survival of the procurement organization. We also found that competition intensity and power asymmetry were not determining factor of supplier management practices. For future research, they should use objective metrics like market share and financial returns to assess supplier performance alongside subjective criteria. Last result that we found in this article is variable with a time lag can identify model causality, whereas future research should consider supplier organization differences in order to comprehend consumer control. The conclusion that we get from this article is this study investigate the function of supplier management practices in mediating the impact of power asymmetry and competition intensity on supplier performance. High involvement work practices (HIWP) are crucial in an organization because they mitigate the impact of competition intensity on supplier quality and flexibility. And the last one is manager must comprehend its supplier management practices in order to effectively exploit the organizational environment of competition and power in performance management. That's the end of Group 1 presentation. Thank you.